Hello, this is Ben119 and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to carry on with my Twilight Princess HD dungeon design series. So we're up to dungeon number 8, Palace of Twilight, and this is the final part of the Palace of Twilight actually, and it is part number 3. And I just want to talk about the boss mostly in this episode because we're going to be approaching the boss very soon. So we got about 2 to 3 more minutes of gameplay. And we got this big room to do, but other than that it's going to be boss and cutscenes. So I want to talk a bit more about this dungeon and this whole playthrough as a whole. And something I do really like about this dungeon, I do really like the music in this dungeon, especially in the outside sections. I think it fits really well with the Twilight theme. And it's like a really spooky theme to it, in a way. It's a really weird theme. I always remembered it. It's really cool sounding, in my opinion. I've not really talked about the music much in the dungeon videos. I should have talked about the music more in some of the other parts. I could have talked more about boss music and how the music can affect the mood of the dungeon, because I think that's a very important feature as well. Because a lot of my favourite dungeons have really good music to them as well, what makes the dungeons better. Like, because if you just had like stupid music in a really good dungeon, it would just completely change the mood of the dungeon. And it wouldn't be the same. And a good boss, like a lot of the bosses in this game, like even bosses I don't like that much, have good music. Like the Goma boss, the big tarantula boss in the Temple of Time, even though I don't like that boss, I still think that boss has got really good music. And the City in the Sky boss, what makes that boss really good is the music, and the music really fits really well to it. And the music in this dungeon, the inside areas are alright, but the outside areas are what make this dungeon and what I remember the most from the soundtrack of this dungeon. So let's just carry on through it. So the objective of this room is to take out the Zant heads, and we get a chest with a key in it. There's a lot of claw shotting, and thinking about it, I think this is actually the dungeon with the most keys. I'm just thinking, I think there's, other than, I'm not counting the boss key obviously, but I'm pretty sure there's 6 keys in this dungeon. And I know Snow Peak has quite a few. I think Snow Peak has like 4 or 5. But I think for Twilight Princess, I think this is the dungeon with the most keys, surprisingly. And it is the second to last one, too. So we have to get a key. And as you can see, when I was climbing up these elevators, there was some that I could have gone. And if you get on the wrong one, it'll either take you to a different point in the room that is useless, or it'll take you to a dead end. Like, it'll take you all the way back to the bottom. So you need to jump on the same ones as I did, by the way. And we can now head through here, and this is the final section before the boss door. So we have to take out some Twilight beasts. I really like this section actually, it's pretty cool. It tests like your sword skills. I wish it was a bit harder. I wish there was dark nuts in this section, or more challenging enemies, because these enemies are a bit easy once you have the ability to take them out in one go. It's pretty cool. You have to take out several of them at once. Like you take out 2 here. Oh, this is easy, 2. Then just 4 of them just fall down from the ceiling on top of you. It's ridiculous. But if you got the Great Spin, it's really easy. There you go. 4 of them dead. I think you're meant to use Wolf Link, because as Wolf Link you can easily target 4 at once. But with the Great Spin and your powered up Master Sword, you'll be fine. And here we go, we're at the boss door. This is probably another dungeon I could have done in 2 parts rather than 3. But I decided to do in 3 just because I don't have to rush the boss. Like City in the Sky, for example. I'm not sure if you saw that part. If you did, thank you, because it means a lot to me. But I decided to do it in 4 parts over 3. I could have easily done it in 4, and it would I easily could have done it in 3. I mean, and it would have been completely fine. But the reason I did it in 4 is just because I wanted to make sure the boss had its own part, and I wanted to make sure I talked a lot about the boss. I could have still done that in like a regular part, I guess, like if it was all in 1, but I just wanted to make it last a bit longer, I guess. Like with the Arbiter's Grounds, for example, I ended up doing that over 2 parts. I really should have done it over 3. But in the second part it was like 20 something minutes, and I want to keep them under 20 minutes so they're easy to watch in like short goes. Because I like making content like that as well. Even though I've done some really long videos and I do some long speed runs, I want to make some videos that can easily be watched in like 10 minutes, 15 minutes or whatever. Because I know not everyone has like a ridiculous amount of time to just watch YouTube for hours. So I think making videos that kind of length can be better in a way. And it's no big deal if they go to like 20 minutes, but I just don't want them going too long. I just like to keep them nice and short and get a bunch of content out of it, I guess. So right here is just a load of text introducing you to like Zant and showing off like Midna and Zant and whatever. If you've played through the original story, this will mean a lot to you, I guess, but I've played it so many times, I've seen this cutscene so many times. But I decided to keep it in. I could have skipped the cutscene quite easily and saved a few minutes of gameplay, but instead I'm just going to talk about other stuff during this cutscene. And I'll talk about the boss when we get to it. The boss is really good, but for now we're just going to talk a bit about this series, because I enjoyed making this series, and the reason why I made this series is because I've seen dungeon design videos before that other people had done, and they basically, I've seen like 10-minute, 20-minute videos where people have like briefly talked about certain dungeons and certain mechanics in dungeons. I think that's really good, but at the same time I wanted to talk about like dungeons. I wanted to kind of make it like a walkthrough slash analysis, this series. I think I did an okay job of it. I think if I was to re-record all the earlier ones now, it could be a much better series, but I was a bit younger back then, and I was newer to doing YouTube content then. I am still fairly new to YouTube now. I'm not very professional. I don't even have 100 subscribers, but I have more of a clue of what to say now than I did like 6 or 7 months ago. Basically what I'm saying, so I could have made a better job of it if I did it all now. But it's okay, because it's still okay. Like, it's not like bad. I don't really disagree with stuff. I'm just saying it could be better. And I could have easily made like a 20-minute video just summing up all the different dungeons and summing up what's my favourite, what's my worst, different items and how they're used. But I just wanted to make like an entire series and go through every dungeon. One, because I wanted to replay Twilight Princess and it gave me a good excuse to replay it. And two, because I wanted to do a let's play, and the dungeons are my favourite part of this game. So I kind of got to do both. But enough talking about the series. Let's talk about Zant, because we're about to fight him. So, even though I was on about Argarok being like the best boss, after replaying this boss, I do think this boss is better in some ways. And you will see why now. So, here we go. This is the Zant fight, and the fight that I've been waiting to play. And this fight basically brings you back to most of the old boss fights in this game. So right now we are in the same arena as the first boss, and we have to use the dungeon item from the first dungeon to fight him, and it's really well done. I love the music. The music is amazing in this boss. The idea of this boss is amazing. It's really chaotic, and I really enjoy the actual fight itself, and how you have to figure out each phase. I think it's a really unique second to last boss. Well, it's really, to be honest, it's built up to be the final boss. I just think it's really unique and awesome how we actually have to go back to these arenas and fight him in these arenas under different conditions. It's better than just doing like a sword fight with him. It's a really cool idea. So right now we're in the Death Mountain. We're fighting him in the mini boss arena for the second dungeon, which is the Gorn wrestling. It's like the wrestling boss where you have to fight the Gorn and throw him off into the lava. So basically what you have to do there is you have to keep on your iron boots when he's shaking the platform, and then when it stops shaking and firing you have to take them off and run towards him. Right here we're in the we're in Lakebed Temple's boss arena now. So we have to put on our blue tunic so then we don't die, and we have to wait for the Zant head to open up and then we can claw shot him out. With the first boss arena, with the boomerang, you basically have to just use the boomerang to knock him onto land. I don't think the claw shot works. It basically makes sure you have to use the item from the dungeon as like a throwback. It's really cool how they've made you do that. Because with some dungeons, like, you kind of just have to use that one item you get in the dungeon. With this boss here, I like how it makes you use old items again. My only problem with this boss is, even though it's really cool, I think it is a bit easy in places. I think it is really challenging still. You have to do all these different things, and it's really, really cool. But I wish they had included every single boss. Like, if they had just had a short part of every boss, because it does include, I think, 5 or 6 different ones. But I think if they had included some of them, like, spoiler alert, they don't include the dragon boss or Star-Lord. I think if they had included those two, it would have been amazing. If it was like a Zant version of Star-Lord, we have to double claw shot, or there was... Star-Lord's the one with the spinner. Sorry. I like how they also use mini-boss arenas, like right here they're using the monkey arena. like you have to fight him like the monkey now. It's pretty awesome. So the monkey was a really cool mini boss. I'm actually thinking of doing a top 9 bosses and a top 9 mini bosses for this series that may be coming after the Dungeon Design series is done. You have to roll into the post and then hit him. It's really cool how they make you fight him in the same way as you did back then, because they could just use the same arenas and have the mechanics completely different, but they decided to make the mechanics like the same. It's a bit like easy in a way because you already know what to do because you will have fighted the bosses before, so it'll be really familiar with what you have to do, but at the same time I don't mind that because it's a really well done boss. The atmosphere is amazing, the music's amazing. People think it's a bit silly for like a final boss and a bit easy, and yes, I agree, but there's nothing wrong with a silly boss. It's a Zelda game. It's not like a super serious game, I guess. I guess Twilight Princess is a more serious game than like Wind Waker because of like the realistic art style and stuff, but it's got its silly moments like this. And once you get through these bosses here, you get taken to Hyrule Field, and this is where the fight goes mad. So just watch this. So it's basically like a 1v1 fight with Zant, and I actually really like this. Some people think that this fight is like too easy and it's really silly for like a final boss, but I'm completely fine with it because it's basically just Zant and he's gone completely mental at this point, and you can kind of understand why. And it's just really fun fighting him, and there's some cool things you can do in this fight. Like, I think there's ways of like glitching him out. I don't really know. But it's a really fun fight. Like, you have to use the hidden skills quite a lot. Like, if you want to fight him faster, he ends up spinning at you. You can use your shield as well. I think it's good use because your shield doesn't really get used that much in this game. But the shield is kind of an underused thing in Zelda games. But you can kind of just fight him like this, and you can actually stun lock him. I just stun locked him and killed him. If you just spin attack him loads, you can stun lock him. That's a fun fact. That's what I did there. The fight just goes on and he gets faster and faster and weirder, and you can just keep fighting him. And I think it's a really funny fight, and it's a really cool end to the fight. The only way to improve that fight is by adding more arenas to the mix. I think that would make it an even better fight because it'd be longer and it would be more challenging as well because you'd probably lose more health, and yeah. But that final fight there, I have no issues with it. I think it's cool. So now that we killed Zant, well, he's not quite dead yet, we got another cutscene, and then we'll be able to finish the dungeon. So that was the Palace of Twilight. I really enjoy the final boss of the Palace of Twilight. I think fighting Zant is a really cool reward for bearing this dungeon, I guess you could say. But yeah, that's all I've got to really say about this dungeon. It's a cool dungeon, it's just, I'm not a huge fan of the first half of it. So we're going to be doing the final dungeon in the next episode, which is Ganondorf's Castle. I think it's just called Hyrule Castle, but we all know it's Ganondorf's Castle. And that dungeon is cool, but in a way I do have split opinions on that dungeon as well, but I think it does do a better job of being a final dungeon than this dungeon. Although the fight in the final fight is actually not that good. I actually prefer this fight to the final boss fight. Because the final boss fight has like lots of different phases, and there's like 2 phases that are quite weak, and it kind of ruins the fight, but the final phase is really good, even though it's a bit easy. But with like the Zant boss, I do agree it's a bit easy, but if you don't really know what you're doing, it can be challenging, and it can be like really hectic. So I guess that's something, and it's really different as well. Like, I know you got like Majora, which was a really crazy fight in Majora's Mask as the final boss, but that fight was super hard, especially if you only had like 6 hearts at the time, or 7 hearts. After playing through the game, you didn't have like all the masks. It was a really difficult final fight. But Zant wasn't that difficult, but it was still fun. So there you go, that's my opinion on the Twilight Realm dungeon. If you enjoyed the video, please like the video and subscribe if you're new around here. We've also now got 20 hearts, which is really cool. We've now got max hearts. And I will see you in the final dungeon next time. So goodbye, and I look forward to doing that.